Hey everyone, welcome to today's video. Welcome to the Gamey Daddy channel. So today I have a little discussion video discussing something that is coming up in the community, and this little concern crops up from time to time. And that's the concern of the player power creep and how strong the players are. In fact, just more recently, I've seen some comments and I've seen some concerns around the block. I'm not going to mention where, saying that players don't seem to feel strong enough to deal with enemies in the game. Now, I have a dissenting opinion of that, and I need to do a little bit of background in order for us to kind of see where I'm coming from. So in the past, this game got to the point where after a lot of tweaks and changes, we as the community around Title Update 5, Title Update 6 felt in a place where we were actually very strong. Like the game became a joke. I've looked around very quickly and come to that consensus from a majority of the people who played the game. I think this is why the developers started to make some tweaks, over the course of the game. And then by Warlords of New York, we found ourselves with the new gear system that we have. Now, it's going to be very difficult to iterate a lot of these different changes, but if you just go back, toward that time, or if you remember that time, you understand what I mean. Imagine then we had holster talents, where if you had a weapon sitting in your bag, it was helping you. Or if you had a sidearm, it could reset your skills in a 25% chance if you take out an enemy. So a 1 in 4 chance your skills basically get an instant cooldown, even if you weren't running a skill build. So these were some of the things that we had, and the game was in a weird, warped place. But now it's very difficult to actually say that we don't have any player strength, because the game right now seems to have a lot more build diversity. And it seems to have a lot more, aspects that you can actually use to be a powerful and a more strong, much more stronger player. I guess that's what I want to say. And then there's something else that also contradicts that thinking and that notion. And that's the fact that if you go on YouTube and search Division 2 best build, you're pretty much going to see build videos that have the thumbnails and the titles. This build will melt everything. This build will obliterate the whole legendary mission. This build will nuke, Chungas from orbit. I mean, you see these thumbnails and they're very interesting and nice to look at. And the truth is, these builds are either telling you a lie that, you can actually be strong with these builds, or you're just the one that's not looking for them. So it's either when you say something like that, or whoever says something like that, you're throwing shade at everyone who does the work to actually, sculpt out the best possible build combinations that you can use for this game. And to be very honest, from my own research and trying out a lot of the builds that our content creators make, I think that claim that some people in the community say that we're not as strong is an unfounded claim. Because I've been known to actually run around with these builds, try them, test them, enjoy them, and recommend them to you on my channel. So the people who are making these builds, the content creators making these builds, they're actually opening up the floodgates of knowledge and information for you to be able to look deeper into Tom Clancy's The Division 2. But it seems some people have decided to just maybe close their ears or feel like they can build better, and then they go their own route, and it doesn't really work out for them. I mean, we could say the other way around is also a problem, where they're all just, harping on builds from other content creators. Those builds may not be working for them, and so they conclude we are not strong as players. I don't think that's the case. I think the case is experimentation is what's going to basically yield to you your play style. The Division 2 right now is in a place where play styles actually do matter and are very important, because the way you're going to run I would just say the litany of gear and brand sets in the game and weapons is going to be very, very different, and it needs to have a flavor that suits your play style. And many people dismiss a lot of builds just because they see it and they already give it some sort of a tag that they don't like. And then it becomes a matter of them wanting to go to the build that fits them or the style that fits them. And that style may not necessarily work once they cross a specific threshold. Now, example is somebody might say, oh, I want to run an SMG build. Well, are you going to be running in the open world, or are you going to be running in a mission? Because in an open world situation, there are many things that you can actually do with an SMG build. In PvP, there are many things you can do with an SMG build. But I can tell you for sure that if you go into a legendary mission with an SMG build, except that SMG is carrying a talent that actually goes with your skills, you're going to have a tough time playing that build, because that mission has most likely, in the way the enemy NPC behaves, in the way the mission structures are, have negated largely SMG builds from actually falling into that scenario. And so long distance and even being able to protect yourself, by using skills that have range or by using weapons that have range will most likely benefit you. And I think many people don't want to fit into that paradigm in these cases. And so they castigate the game as the game being the fault. I don't think this is the case. There are also aspects of playstyles that require sacrifice. The sacrifice meaning is, in some instances, if you want to be, maybe a little tanky, or if you want to do a little bit more damage, then you have to either sacrifice taking more damage or maybe having to negate some of your damage dealing. And what I mean is maybe your rolls. Perhaps you have to roll off an armor stat to get more damage stat, or roll off a damage stat and replace it with an armor stat just because that's potentially what suits you. In some cases, you have to maybe run talents that on a normal day you probably don't want to touch, like glass cannon on a weapon build. And there are people that run them. In fact, I thought I was one of the few that was running them on my skill build. But, talents like those, I was very surprised to see that there are people running them on a full-blown damage build. And they are going with the pattern of a high risk, high reward. And I don't think a lot of people want to actually, risk anything in order to benefit these rewards that the game actually, will give you. Because if you build around Providence and the perfect glass cannon and you take a weapon and you hit anything in this game, it's going to be deleted. There is no doubt if it's well built, if it's built with critical hit chance, and you're even in a team where somebody has a skill that's buffing you, like Future Initiative, there's no way that you will not be dealing some of the craziest damage in this game. And so that's exactly where I'm coming from. There is an extensive knowledge that the player has to actually have, and also a little bit of a sacrifice that the player has to make, even in some cases, sacrificing their preferred playstyle in order for them to be able to, gain this extensive power that they wish. And every time they say, we're not going to sacrifice our personal playstyle, then they have to kind of live with I would say, the results of that, which is a less efficient damage dealing I would say potential that they have. And then there's also the side of, being a tank, which is an RPG element that also allows you to feel powerful. Many tanks in this game will tell you that if you're playing some of the harder content and you play smart as a tank, you're going to enjoy yourself because you can take a lot of damage. You can basically shield for your team. Some people hate tanks. So in their own estimation, they say, well, tanks just block all my bullets. Well, think about the possibility that tank is most likely taking some bullets that you're meant to have eaten. And sure, they might block your bullets, but it's damage that you are not taking. And now you can always adjust yourself to be able to now deal more damage because your tank is taking, some of the damage that you're supposed to be taking. Now, yes, the tank mechanics and the threat mechanics in the Division 2 is quite weird, where tanks don't really take all the damage. I think the enemy NPCs kind of subvert that, mechanic, or it's not even present in the game, but it's still something that the tank themselves are going to be taking some of the damage. Imagine if that damage was focused on just all of you, then how are you guys going to deal DPS consistently? You'd still have to go in cover, and that also takes away from your DPS. So we see this complaint, but it doesn't necessarily explore the strength of the entire team in the game. And then you also have skills that are very powerful. Eclipse Protocol is right now one of the most fun status effect builds that you can play. But a lot of people say, hey, this is a shooter. I don't want to shoot skills. Sorry, it is the Division. We have skill trees. Many seem to forget that we've played this game from a 2016 version that had a lot of skills and a lot of weapons. And because those skills seem to have been ignored because PvP was kind of a problem with some of the skills, so many of them got nerfed to the point where most of the more important skills that we were using were basically the support station and maybe some pulse and a few others, maybe even the booster shot or something. It doesn't mean that the skills in the Division 2 are not actually good. The skills in Division 2, they may not be the same as the Division 1, but they're good in their own right. Chem Launcher used to be a joke. Now, if you have a good Chem Launcher fire starter and you take one enemy NPC out, it can take out the whole room if the enemy NPC is positioned very well. It's crazy how you can do that one action and clean out the room. And I'm talking on legendary difficulty. So saying that one specific action that you can take and wipe out a whole bunch of enemies does not feel like you being strong, it doesn't make any sense to me. I think we're at an impasse where we're not in a case trying to give up the way we play, and we're not willing to adopt what's actually efficient and what will work for the current game. And I also have to say this. The way this game is built, it kind of shoehorns us into, specific playstyles. And for the longest time, those playstyles and those builds were very minimal. Remember when we all used to run damage to elites? Now we're no longer in that little box. We've actually expanded just a little bit more from that box. And the expansion, I say a little bit more because I'm trying to be, reasonable here, but we have builds that span across the entire game from all kinds of, combinations that you can put together. And they are unique within the ecosystem called the Division 2. I've seen other people say things like, oh, this game is not, you're saying we have build diversity in the Division 2. Well, you must not have played this RPG over there. Well, that RPG over there is that RPG over there. It is not the Division 2. And so it's very challenging to kind of, I would say compare them and juxtapose them, upon one another. I think we are just at a place where we are starting to kind of get used to the limitations of this game. As beautiful as this game looks, as much potential as it has, it is extremely limited. And the limitation may come from the developers, it may come from the technical sides, or it may come from just the fact that there is right now no reasonable or practical way to implement some of the things that we're talking about. We may think technology has gotten to that point, but who knows? Perhaps there's no expertise readily available to implement some of the higher aspects that we would expect from this game. And our criticism is not unfounded. Many of us want this game to be better, and many of us want to see the game achieve a more, a much more stronger potential than it already is. And I can understand that. But at the same time, I think there's also the introspection that we have to do as a community in looking around and kind of gathering ideas. And I think this is basically what's going to continue to help the game become much more of an enjoyable experience rather than a load that we have to carry. So I hope I've been able to provide my opinion. I know it's probably contrary to what a lot of people may think, but I like to spark conversation nonetheless, and I like to always poke the narrative a little bit. Whenever people start talking about these things, I try to just go there and just, yeah, take it easy. Peace.